I'll admit, when I was first being introduced to this spice by the founder of the company I now work for, I really had to rack my brain to see if I knew what it tasted like. I thought I had a vague idea about the flavor, but when I finally got my hands on some, I realized my vague idea was completely wrong. I guess growing up in southern Indiana did not exactly give me an education in exotic spices. So in case some of you are like me, let me share with you what saffron is. And trust me, I would have loved to have a little packet of saffron underneath all of your seats so I could tell you to take it out right now and look at what it tastes like and smells like. But unfortunately, as you'll find out, saffron is incredibly expensive, and my company is also incredibly small. We'll start with this picture behind me. These are saffron threads as they have looked for thousands of years. Saffron has been used for millennia. It's been used as a bathing spice from Cleopatra's time to it's a staple in Spanish paella, you know it today. It is known for providing a bright golden yellow color to food products primarily, and also gives an earthy, unique, very musky floral aroma and flavor. These saffron threads are actually the dried stigma of the crocus flower, and you can see there are only 3 stigmas per flower, so you can kind of grasp the scale of things. These flowers grow very close to the ground, and they're an autumn flowering perennial, which means harvest only happens once a year. Saffron is also grown from corms. Here are some farmers planting our corms, and these multiply underground from one year to the next. So let's just bring this to market scale. 1 kilogram of saffron takes 150,000 blossoms, or 450,000 stigmas. This can bring on market from $2,000 to $10,000 US, which is why saffron has the nickname red gold in many languages, as well as the common phrase that saffron is worth its weight in gold. In the current gold market, gold is actually still more expensive, but nevertheless, saffron deserves its title as the queen of all spices. But why am I up here talking to you about saffron? A few years ago, I was working in Chicago at a very large candy company, and it was a really good job. I had competitive pay, bonuses, I got to travel to cool shows, we had free lunch for some reason every day. I even had a great boss, and not to mention, when I went home and saw my younger cousins, they thought I was super cool because I worked at a candy factory. I'm a food scientist by profession, and my job was literally to make candy every day, which is every kid's dream, right? But I couldn't help but feel that I was just a cog in a big machine. And time and again, my colleagues and I in the research and development team, we would have been working really enthusiastic on different projects, and we'd be very excited about something we're working on, and it would be shot down by sales and marketing, or essentially someone high up and far away. And most people who know me would describe me as a passionate person. And since I can't help but work hard, I couldn't help but likewise think that wouldn't my hard work and my passion be more motivating if I applied it towards some greater good or a greater goal? So enter Rumi Spice into my pretty standard food scientist profession. No, when I met them, they were not hiring, and they had no plans of hiring anyone like me, but that did not keep me from daydreaming about working for a company like them. I was really into the idea of this scrappy little startup, and I just liked the idea of a company with a soul. So after a few months of daydreaming / planning how I would approach them and convince them they needed to hire me, I nervously made my move, and I was accepted to be part of their team. And I was actually also the first full-time employee outside of the founders themselves, and we are still a company of 4 people. And our company is Rumi Spice, so it is on a mission of cultivating peace in Afghanistan through saffron. And what made me really believe in their idea is that it's risky to leave a professional, stable job, but I really liked their whole mission. I thought it was worth it because they really want to cultivate peace. And they do this in Afghanistan, which is a region that you guys may have heard a little bit about. So Afghanistan has had a really rough last 50 years. This started with a civil war in the 70s. It led into a 9-year-long Soviet-Afghan war. There were more civil wars. The Taliban developed, and you probably know where it goes from there. If you're like me, Afghanistan didn't even come on your radar until 9/11, which is not the best association to have with a country that has such a rich and beautiful history. I was even traveling a few years ago in Jordan, and I came across an old guidebook from the 70s, and it was talking about going to Afghanistan, mentioning all these cool restaurants and cafes and places to visit in the country. And it really floored me. I had never considered Afghanistan as a hot travel destination, and I also had not considered how much this has affected their society these last 50 years. Rumi Spice was born out of the dedication of previous military veterans who were serving in Afghanistan, and they saw the economic need of the Afghan people while they were on the ground. The opportunity presented itself in the form of a farmer approaching one of my coworkers and co-founders, Keith, and this farmer just had a box of saffron, a cardboard box, wrapped in string, which, by the way, not the best way to store your saffron. And he approached Keith and said, "Could you help me sell this in the US?" This is really how this whole idea was born of connecting these saffron farmers to the international market. And as with many new business ventures, Rumi quickly found out that there was more to the saffron landscape than they had anticipated. And what I'm really talking about here is that the saffron market is really ripe with adulteration. Saffron has the habit of changing many hands before it reaches your local grocery store. This changing of hands increases the risk that saffron will be either cut with non-saffron ingredients like safflower or stigmas of marigolds, or it can even be cut with non-food ingredients like dyed silk and dyed paper. And don't even get me started on what you can find in saffron powder. You should definitely just buy threads and grind them yourself. Adulteration can happen in other ways. It can be people dipping the saffron into honey or another type of viscous liquid to increase the weight. Adulteration always hurts the farmers because it means that their product that they've worked so hard to grow and to process is reaping more money on the market than ever managed to reach them. And it's getting this money for all the wrong reasons. Luckily, there's a pretty easy test to do to see if you have adulterated saffron on your hands, and that's the water test. You simply take a pinch of your saffron in question, about 10 threads will do, put it in some hot water, and if it has a bright golden color, a yellow color, you can see that you have good saffron on your hands, as well as you need to make sure that the threads retain their structural identity, or they don't puff up. And if they do puff up, or if there's also an orange color that's kind of coming out of the saffron, you have bad saffron on your hands. And that's not even the only issue, actually, with saffron and this whole lack of transparency. You also often don't even know where it comes from. So I'll share with you a statistic. In Spain, on average, they grow about 3,000 kilograms of saffron a year. They export, however, 35,000 kilograms of saffron every year, and it's all labeled Spanish saffron. That's 32,000 kilograms of saffron just coming out of Spain, all labeled as Spanish saffron, so the wrong country of origin. So where is the saffron coming from? The answer is mostly Iran, and there's also a handful of other Eurasian countries. Iran is the largest producer of saffron in the world by far, and it has a long history of producing it. It has a really great climate for it. However, you probably know, there's a lot of international sanctions on Iran, so it's very hard for them to openly and clearly export their products. Where we grow our saffron is in Herat, Afghanistan. This is like the saffron hub of Afghanistan, and it has a very similar climate and landscape to Iran as they are bordering countries. There's actually a little clip of our farmers that are working the fields, and it looks like a really surreal landscape, I think, like some weird clip out of an international film festival movie that has no storyline, and there's like cymbals clashing, but these are not actors, these are actually farmers, and this is where you can actually grow the world's most expensive spice. Saffron cultivation offers a really great alternative to what farmers in this region commonly have to grow, which is opium. And I think all of us in this room know that opium is a pretty big problem. Opium is illegal by Afghan law, and it's also desired in the black market which is Taliban-linked. So opium farmers risk having their fields torched by law enforcers, or they risk being extorted by the Taliban. Not a great option for these farmers, but they need to make a living somehow, and if any of us were in the same situation as them, we would probably choose to also grow an illegal and risky crop if the alternative was not being able to feed yourself or your family. But luckily for these farmers, there is an alternative, and that is cultivating saffron. Growing saffron can give a farmer or help them earn up to 7 times the amount they would make growing an otherwise illegal and risky crop. And let me just repeat this and let this sink in. Growing saffron can offer up to 7 times you can make growing an illegal and risky crop. Not to mention, you get access to the international market, and it's open and legal. This is not a hard choice for farmers to make, as you can imagine, if you can make sure and tell them that they can sell it. Our farmers that grow our saffron are extremely proud of their products. They work super hard and diligently every year to improve both their agricultural practices and their processing operations. These farmers want jobs. They do not want handouts. Charity and aid are really not a solution for these people, as you don't get the pride you get out of producing a product of value. Jobs are the solution. Over 80% of Afghanistan is actually reliant on the rural agricultural economy. And to date, our small company of 4 people have invested $750,000 US dollars into Afghanistan. Most of this money also is reaching the pockets of the farmers themselves. This represents 3.6 of the total foreign direct investment going into Afghanistan, which is not to say how big we are, it is to show you how extremely little foreign direct investment is going into Afghanistan. And I've mentioned the farmers that we work with, but I really want to make sure I mention the women as well. These women work hard every year. They work in the processing facilities. Here they are separating the stigmas from the flowers. They help with the harvest. And these women would really otherwise struggle to find a way to contribute to their family's income. All of our partners and their hard work, this is what has made this business a reality. And again, I want to repeat this. This is not a charity. This is simply reconnecting a great saffron growing region of the world to the international market, which provides both the product in demand and really good, honest jobs to people who want them. We live in a world that is more connected than ever, and people increasingly want to know both where their food came from and if the farmers are treated fairly. This demand for transparency is only going to continue, which means more companies with business models like ours will be able to take center stage and make sure that farmers are seeing the real profits of producing a product of value. I am incredibly honored to work for this company. I have a real sense of pride in what I do, and I also am very humbled getting to work with these Afghan people and see how they're working so hard, to have a chance at a better life. And also, they're taking extreme risks to connect to the international market, which none of us in this room really have to think about every day. The Afghan people are incredibly determined to reconnect to the international market, and I am likewise determined to continue my mission of working with them to cultivate peace through saffron. Thank you.